What up, though? Welcome to another episode of Speak for Yourself. I am Ken Elkins, the COO of Black Leaders Detroit. And today I'm kicking it with, of course, our CEO, Mr. Dwan Dandridge. So what we're going to be talking about today is we're actually working on a new series, a new summit, right?
Yep.
Called More Money, More Impact.
Yep.
So talk to us, Mr. Dwan, about More Money, More Impact. What is that?
So, first of all, I like you calling me Mr. Dwan. We should do that. Make that mandatory moving forward.
That's not ever going to happen again.
So yes, I really like the way that sound really rolled off well. No, but I mean, it's birthed from one. I spend about an hour and a half, couple hours every 2 weeks, talking to another or a different leader, nonprofit leader in the city, right? That's trying to figure out how to improve their fundraising strategies. I think you and I benefited well from the organizations that we were a part of and learned like different techniques as it comes to fundraising, and we both have a passion to share those. The problem is we're limited on how much time we can commit. You know what I mean? And as I started to see that time was like adding up, and there was just a hunger for more information and understanding. We started having conversations about how do we create something where we can get everybody in the room that has a desire to learn, and then get people that understand this stuff even better than you and I do, right? So that's where like More Money, More Impact kind of came from, like seeing another opportunity and way to help people gain access to capital in addition to the funding that we distribute to the nonprofit sector through grants.
Got you. And so I love the name, More Money, More Impact. So what does that name come from? What made you come up with that name?
The first thing that kind of comes to mind for me is probably hearing, it seems like one of the Waynes or a skit from like In Living Color or something like that, right?
More money, more money, more money. Yeah, that's the Wayne's.
It's like that kind of
comes
to mind. But something that like is really, really straight to the point and is clear, right? We know without a doubt, because we know them and we know people that have gone through their programs, we know that the nonprofit leaders, even with small budgets, are having huge, massive impact on our city. Right, with the services that they're offering, whatever problem they're solving through their work. So the thought is, if they're doing that with the budgets that they have currently, what would that mean for our city overall if they had access to more capital? So it benefits everybody if they're able to raise more money, right? If they're able to scale the work that they're doing and impact even more people, more Detroiters. So that's where it comes from.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, as you mentioned, a lot of organizations struggle with just even the ask or the fund development side of things. Because a lot of times practitioners are doing the work. That's what they're focused on, is doing work, right? And very little on actually getting the money to do the work. So they just go after the low-hanging fruit, get what they can get to allow them to keep doing the work, right? And so why is this, you mentioned in regards to scaling, what other reasons is it just so important other than scaling for a nonprofit to come to More Money, More Impact, and learn from the information that's be shared that day? So,
I mean, one, we know what it's like to have, like, to care and feel called to work on something so much that you'll not only give yourself to it, you'll give your own money to it. And we still have a lot of Black nonprofit leaders that are giving themselves and their information to the organization, but they're also giving their own money. And we want to see them like be able to serve, work, and actually do it by vocation, right? You and I get a salary from Black Leaders Detroit. That's because we know that the work that we do is important for the community that we serve. We also know that we want the people that do the work to be taken care of as well. Like you earn every dollar that you paid at Black Leaders Detroit, right? So it's like we want to make sure that other nonprofits are in position to be able to take care of themselves well and not giving all they have, be it themselves and their money, because I've done that before, and I know that it's not sustainable. It will only last so long unless you're just inherently wealthy. You know what I mean? So, and it broke my heart when I was running an initiative, and me and my wife was funding it, and I eventually had to close the doors after 5 years, right? So seeing, some of the other ways that you can do it in a way where you raise the money and you can keep the doors open, right? Like that's what we want to share, and that's what we want to introduce to some of the leaders that may be doing it a little bit differently.
Okay. But isn't fundraising easy? I mean, it's not easy?
So I'll say this. It's not as hard as somebody might think it is, right? When you take the right approach, right? The fundraising, fund development, it's more relationship building than anything. So the way I see it, right, is that the nonprofit leaders already are caring people, right? You don't get in this work if you're not a caring person, especially if you're a founder, right? So you already care about, like, the people that you're serving. The thing is saving a little bit of that, your love and care for people that are out here sitting in positions to fund your initiative, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's what it's about. It's about, like, the right relationships. There are people out here that it is their job that they do every day to get money from foundations, from corporations, in the hands of people that are having huge impact. The thing is, if they don't know that you're out there, then they can't get the money to you. So, that's a big part of, the success that we've experienced. That's what I saw when I was at Life Remodeled. I saw Chris Lambert do, and that's what we do here is we intentionally find out who has the funding and see if that's a good relationship for us, right? Because everyone is not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are some people out there that are sitting in those seats in control. It's just not a good fit for us, right? And you've seen us, you've seen me say, hey, you know what? Y'all keep y'all money. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there are some really, really dope people out there that care, and we just have to make sure that we're taking the people over here that care, that's doing the work, the people over here that has the money, and make the connection. And that has the executive directors, the fundraisers for these nonprofits has to see that as just as important as the work that they do on the day-to-day in serving.
Okay. Now, it's interesting. I've found, from my perspective, one of the biggest mistakes that some nonprofit leaders have made in regards to fund development or doing an ask is being the intimidation factor. Right?
Yeah.
Is being intimidated about asking for money, not doing the work, the homework on what to ask, right?
Yeah.
So then when you do ask for that amount, that you're comfortable in that ask.
Yes.
And so that's one of the biggest things I've seen is just that intimidation factor. When someone asks, well, how can I help you? Then it's like, well, and they kind of hum around it versus saying, yeah, you can help me if you gave my organization $250,000.
Right.
Or they may say, you can help me by making a donation.
Right.
Versus giving them a specific of saying, well, you can help me. It would really help us if we had $500,000 to our development fund, blah, 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 right? So what's a mistake that you've observed other nonprofits have done, or even some mistakes that you may have done earlier in your fundraising career?
Yeah, so that's a really good point and good questions, right? I think that some of it is a shift in mentality, and seeing the work that you're doing as deserving of plenty of money, right? Yeah. Especially if you're already out here making impact. I remember when we had to get out there and raise money when it was just idea.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was raising money when it was still idea, the confidence that I had in making the ask is not the same it is when I'm like, we have something to show for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, big difference.
It's a big difference. And that's natural, right? Because the people that are sitting in the seats with these foundations and corporate sponsors and donors, they are tasked with making the world a better place. They have their own mission of making the world a better place in certain areas. So if you're already doing that work, the need is mutual. Mm-hmm. So you come to that table with them needing you and you needing them, right?
Yep.
So it's not like you should be all like, weirded out or scared or intimidated, you know what I mean? But I'll tell a quick story. I can remember, so you heard me talk about like working at Life Remodeled, and one of the reasons I was there is I really wanted to understand how some of the white-led nonprofits raise so much money and so much momentum. Mm-hmm. And I got a great education while I was there, right? Like Chris was really good, and the organization and the structure and the infrastructure of the organization was really, really solid and well run. But I can remember early on, maybe in my first month there, being in a room when Chris was making an ask. And it was with, one of the bigger foundations in the city. And we were all sitting around a table. It was probably 7 of us. And the person from the foundation side asked Chris, like, what are you going to be looking for from us? How can I help you, right? Mm-hmm. And Chris looked him like right in his eyes and in a real casual, confident way said, we hoping y'all can come in at $500,000. And, I'm rolling with Chris, so, I know how to at least play it off. So right. I'm trying to sit there and keep a straight face, but on my inside, I'm like,
right, you just asked him for $500,000, like $500,000.
No, did they just ask him for $500,000?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's how y'all doing it up in here? That's what's going on the inside, but on the outside, I'm like this. I'm like, yeah, $100,000.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But on the inside, I was flipping out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think that part of it is sometimes you got to convince yourself. Yep. Like walk in the room like a confident white dude. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to give yourself pep talks, whatever it takes. But I remember a good friend of mine, Jack Elsey, who's on our Ally Council. He was telling me, he was like, Dwan, when you go in there, you need to be asking for 7 figures. Yeah. And you need to do it confidently, right? Yeah. He's like, they should be putting that type of money into this initiative. And he's like, oftentimes, some of my black friends, they go in there and they make asks that are small. Yeah. He's like, don't make that mistake. And so I want to act like, I'm a big, bad, brave, like fundraiser. And that's not the case. I've had coaching. I've had experience where I've watched it done well. Yeah. And I've had people like Jack. I've had people like you, like encourage me to go into those spaces and just make an ask. Yeah. You know what I mean? So.
That's extremely important, I think, as you was mentioning, being the big, bad, brave guy, but also doing the work.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right, also doing the work. As you were saying, how some of these white organizations may raise so much money and build momentum. And the same with you. I got a chance to work with a woman named Chris Marshall at Winning Futures. And the same thing, just an amazing fundraiser. And sometimes what I would get from other people is like, well, she's a white woman, she's privileged. And I was like, that might have something to do with it, but I also know she works very hard.
Yep.
I know she works very hard, right? And that's very hard at building up to the ask.
That's it.
And I think that's what people miss is it's about relationship building, but it's about doing the work and building those relationships. And that takes intentionality and it takes work. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to have a hard time getting funds for your organization, right? So it's also doing that work too.
That's real. That's real. I mean, one of the things I used to say about Chris when I was at Life Remodeled was, and we all worked really, really hard, right? Like you had some demanding positions and roles there, but nobody outworked Chris. You know what I mean? Nobody on the team outworked Chris. He worked his butt off. But I think that there's something that you touched on about us being practitioners, right? We start organizations oftentimes because we're trying to create and become something for someone that we lacked or that we didn't have, right? And we ourselves oftentimes overcame whatever that obstacle is, and we're trying to scale it. We're trying to take it and share it with the larger community, right? And that's where our passion, our drive is, and we're just good at that. There's other parts of running a business, running a nonprofit or for impact, right? As Doug would say, organization, there's a lot more to it, right? And like making sure that you have that stuff in place is the other component that you need. It's necessary. And it may not come as naturally, right? Like sitting there becoming that thing that I needed may come more naturally to me, right? But in order to really go after the larger dollar amounts, which you deserve if you're doing impactful work, you have to make sure the infrastructure is in place. That you have to train yourself for that to become important, and you may have to have a learning curve, right?
Nice. And so I don't want to go too much into giving them all the tips. So again, more money, more impact. What's the date of More Money, More Impact?
November 29th and November 30th from 8 to 3 o'clock. You come in 8 to register. There's going to be some networking taking place around that time. 9 o'clock, we're going to start sharing things like how to build a board properly. You're going to hear from some of the foundation leaders themselves. We got folks from the Kellogg Foundation, the Gilbert Foundation. We got folks from the Ford Foundation, the Song Foundation. They're going to be here telling you some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to raising money from foundations. You're going to have people from some of the banking institutions, right? They're going to be here telling you some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to raising money from corporations. You're going to hear from some nonprofit leaders themselves, and you're going to hear from some of the heads of some of the foundations. We're going to have people here that are allies, and we're going to talk about how to strategically work with allies, because sometimes if you have the right allies that have the right connections, they can make the introductions and assist with getting you some of that funding.
Nice. And so what are you hoping that nonprofit leaders will walk away with after the end of the 2-day seminar?
Some real practical steps they can take, right? Some really, really practical things that they can implement like right now, right? There are probably going to be some things for some, depending on where you are on this journey. There's probably going to be some bigger steps that you need to take. But I think that everybody's going to be able to walk away with like, hey, this is how they go about building their list of people that are potential funders, right? I'll give you one of the quick tips, right? Cranes, Detroit. That's a huge resource, right? If you want to know why it's a huge resource, you're going to have to be in attendance, right? But that's a huge resource, and it's real simple. I think Crane, the subscription is like $30-something a year. But, one, you have to find out who has the ability and desire to give to the work that you're doing. That's a task or a job within itself. And then you have to figure out what rooms are they in? How do I get in those rooms to get an introduction to start building the relationship with them?
Okay. And so when you was with Life Remodeled, how much money did you, let me back up. Your organization, what was the name of the organization that you were doing the homes? Was there a name?
It had no name.
Name.
It was a house that we took from that was real estate investment property for us that we had, was renting out. Turned it into a transitional house for young men that wanted to stop selling drugs or had challenges and wanted to develop a relationship with the Lord, but also give them some skills that would give them an opportunity to raise some money in a different way. That's pretty much what we did. And so it had no name.
So the house with no name. How much did you fundraise for that organization?
I didn't fundraise. I fundraised very little. And what it looked like was a group of guys that used to get together on Saturday mornings and have Bible study. I would tell them that we were struggling financially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would tell them. And a lot of times that's what we do We call that fundraising.
Yeah.
I told everybody that we
Right.
needed some money
Right.
and we needed some help.
Right.
It's like telling somebody is a lot different from me saying, Ken, man, we struggling over there. You know what I mean? We're doing all this good work, but we struggling. You know what I mean? I walk away in my mind, I just asked Ken to help us. I know Ken had some bread. You know what I mean?
Right. But you ain't asked me
but
nothing.
I ain't asking.
Yeah.
Right? But that's different from me saying, Ken, here's the work that we're doing over here on Westwood.
Yeah.
And here's how the men that are there are benefiting from it. If we close down, some of them may end up going back to the streets.
Yeah.
Right? Which is going to mean being a problem for the community, but problem for them and their families as well. Would you be able to? You think you and your wife would consider making a $2,500 pledge over this next year, right?
Right.
That would go a long way. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's two different things.
Right. And that's not what you were doing.
That's not what
at
I was
that
doing.
time. How much money did you fundraise for Life Remodeled?
I didn't fundraise a lot of money for Life Remodeled. That wasn't my job.
That wasn't
my role.
How much money did you fundraise for Black Leaders Detroit?
You had those numbers better than I do.
$4 million.
$4 million?
$4 million.
Oh, I got work to do. I'm not happy with that number.
So you went from probably like $4,000.
Right.
The house with no name.
About $4,000.
About $4,000
to $4 million.
To $4 million. And I state that to say, not necessarily for you to pat your back, but just the importance of people to understand why coming to More Money, More Impact is important. Because I know there's a bunch of people who have their own for impact organization that's fundraising right now $4,000.
Yeah.
And they're like, $40,000. And but with their vision, they need to be at $4 million.
Yes.
And so this is just some strategies to help them get to that $4 million, right?
Yes.
So that's why it's super important for people to be in the room. So I think that's about all I have. You got anything else to add?
No, that's it. I mean, if you are looking to, learn new strategies and different ways to really get out there and connect with the people that are given to the work that you do, you want to be in the house. We're going to have people in the room that you just need to be in there, if nothing else, to meet them and try to get their business card, right? So wherever you are, we feel like you're going to bring something, you're going to have something to add and contribute, but we definitely have some things that we think you're going to be able to share with you that'll be beneficial.
Cool. All right, well, that's it. You heard it from us. Again, that date is November the 29th and the 30th.
How do they sign up?
They can go to blackleadersdetroit.org and register for More Money, for More Impact. More Money, More Impact. You'll see it right on our homepage. So go sign up today. We actually have, we forgot to mention this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come back.
Go ahead.
So we've had a donor actually contribute, and the donor is paying for a limited amount of tickets, $75 towards those tickets. So that means now ticket prices are $25. And that is up until December 3rd. So I'm sorry, not December 3rd. November 3rd. November 3rd. So you have up to November 3rd to get a ticket for $25. After November 3rd, the tickets go back up to $100. So we have, again, a limited amount of tickets.
$25 to come and get the information.
$25.
To get some of the information that they're going to be getting. That's a steal.
Especially when it was $100.
It was $100, which was still, in my opinion, a steal.
Right.
If somebody would share with me the things that we plan to share for $100,
yeah.
Oh, I would easily sign up for that all day.
I paid $500 and I ain't got half the information that we're going to be giving away.
Oh, yeah.
In this. So, again, sign up, blackleadersdetroit.org, More Money, More Impact, and hope to see you there.
Peace.